Hi, welcome to the Hidden Hues of Motherhood. I'm Lulu Guerrero, your host. In this episode, I sit down with my dear, dear friend, Frensis Dule. Frensis and I go back, I want to say 8 years. We met when I was working at Northwestern Mutual in finance in 2018, April of 2018, I started working there, and she was sitting in the cubicle next to me, and it was just amazing meeting her. I think that we have such a beautiful relationship because we have so much in common. Our backgrounds are very similar in the sense of being immigrants and coming to this country to succeed. And now we're both business owners. In this episode, Frensis, who is a mother, entrepreneur, and an unapologetic truth teller, shares her powerful perspective on what it's really like to navigate pregnancy, birth, and postpartum in a system that just isn't built to support us. Together, we dig into the painful reality that so many mothers face: the lack of care, the missing resources, and the deep emotional toll of being dismissed by a healthcare system that was never designed with us in mind. But Frensis doesn't stop there. She's also the brilliant founder behind Bundle Sparkle, a business rooted in care and empowerment. She opens up about her own entrepreneur journey and offers real heartfelt advice for new business owners, especially mamas. This conversation is so bold, raw, and necessary. And I am so honored to share her voice with you. Frensis, thank you so much for coming. You look beautiful today.
Thank you for having me. And before we start, I just wanted to say that I'm so honored to be here today.
Yeah.
I'm also so happy that you finally decided to take such a great initiative to be so impactful. You've always been very impactful for everybody around you. But to take it to a larger scale, I think there is a lot of stories that need to be heard. A lot of voices that need to be out there. So thank you for allowing all of us this opportunity and for giving this opportunity to all of us.
Thank you. Bruno, you gotta go, buddy. You gotta go, or I'm gonna have to put you in your box. Okay? Go, buddy. I'm out of breath going up the stairs. Story of my life. But also, I can't breathe from my nose because of my sinus infection. So, I want to know the moment that you had this idea to start this business. Because I remember you coming into work and being like, Lulu, I think I have an idea. I think I want to start some photography. I've always been a little bit artistic. Would you let me take pictures of your baby? And at that time, I was pregnant with Estella. I think I was like 7 months pregnant with her. And I was like, yay, yes, of course. I was like so excited for you to start this endeavor. So tell me about it, how that idea kind of came.
So it was all still the beginning for me. I had moved to the States probably 2 years before that.
Yeah.
So it was still a lot, just trying to fit in, trying to work with my accent.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to learn a lot about the wealth management industry, and a lot about that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I tried to sit for the investments exams, and I only tried it once, I think, and that I missed it for one point only. And that was the moment I realized I'm very emotionally driven and I'm very passionate driven. So I don't think this is going to cut it for me.
Yeah.
So I decided to do something that really makes me feel good about what I do, makes me feel impactful.
Yeah.
So I decided to start that. And at the time I started that as a one-stop shop with another friend of mine, Nella, and we just decided to open a one-stop shop that included photography, studio, and event photography, event decor, and makeup. Something for women to be able to trust, feel themselves, and just let it go to professionals so that we have had it covered for them.
Yeah, and just trusting one group to do all of that.
Correct.
Because it's so hard to find the makeup artist and the photographer and the event planner and the decorator, all of these people that you have to not only pay, but also trust that they're all going to come together and bring your vision to life. So you had this idea of doing this bundle, and that's where the bundle started, right?
And that's when Bundle Sparkle started.
Oh my gosh. I remember having Estella, and you had already kind of taken drive of your idea with Nella. And I was so excited to be part of your journey of like supporting you. And I just knew in my heart that your business was going to be explosively successful. And just to be part of seeing that from day one was so special to me. And having Estella be like your little photographer model was so special. Now that I'm starting my own endeavors and my own business, my own projects, and having you be part of that is so special, because I feel like that's what we need as women. We need all the women to validate us, to say, okay, you have this really cool idea. Who else to validate you than other women, than other artists that have, the same drive as you?
I am very appreciative, actually very thankful and so grateful for all the people who supported us in the beginning. So yes, we had the thrive, we had the goodwill, and all that to really make a change, do something for ourselves, do something also for the community, because the business is definitely locally based.
Yeah.
But little did I know in the beginning, so having people there to support us, to just be there and trusting you, believing in you is probably that magic element that you need to really glue, and stick everything together and make make everything work. So so thank you for being there.
Of course.
Thank you for being there, and thank you for just, it's been also an honor for me, to have you be part of this journey, of this success story, because it is a success story, and I'm so proud of sharing that, so, and I'm very happy to share it with you today. It's the first time that I talk about it publicly.
Because if you think about it, our businesses, our ideas are like our babies. And at that time, we didn't have babies yet, So to have this idea become an actual thing and then flourish, I knew always that you were going to be a phenomenal mom because of the way that you nurtured your idea of Bundle Sparkle. And you nurtured it just like any other mother would nurture their child.
I did.
How was the process of doing that at the very beginning, figuring out a new business idea, figuring out how you were going to share it with a partner, because at the time you had Nella. How did that go about?
So it's hard, right? And I'm here to talk about all of it in a very raw sense. You know me
That's
anyway.
That's good, yeah.
That's what I do anyway. So it was hard, but in me, I knew I had it in me, because I had, so I've always been artistic, as you said, and I've handled a lot of other projects back in Albania, which is my home country, as a youth, and being a very a big youth activist there and handling different projects. So I knew I was a people's person.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I had this creativity, in me. And I also think that my major, because I studied finance, I actually went to a business school majoring in finance. And when I graduated at school, the only lesson that I will never forget, and I really recommend that every business owner should know and have it on top of their minds, is make sure you maximize the value of the business, because there's so many people going out there for a dime, and I get it, like I've been there, like I've been overworked, underpaid, I've worked so hard to make the name work for me later. But for me, it was never about the money. It was about the value, So if you work about maximizing your value and optimizing your profit, then you will have success, because you will be able to have a sustainable business. You will be able to not just have a transactional sort of relationship with the clients, but really build real relationships with your clients, so that to most of them, and they know, and I'm also very appreciative to all of them, actually, for all their support. To them, I'm like their party guru, right?
Yeah.
So they know I'm their go-to person, right? So for whichever type of business you want to build, this is who you want to be. You know, you don't want to be somebody that they remember a terrible customer experience from. So customer experience is the number one thing in my opinion, for running a sustainable and a strong business and building a strong name. And then money will come, money will follow. Trust me, it will follow. So once you establish a good reputation, a good name, and once you focus on the client experience, the rest will follow. Probably the second thing that I would say about the business is make sure in the first years that you're overworked and then you're working for somebody else, make sure that you have a good mentor. Make sure that you're working for somebody that can be tough, and my previous boss was. But somebody that you can learn a lot from, right? So, and this is why I loved working, and as overworked as I was, and you remember me.
Oh my gosh, we both were, but I could not believe how. You were.
It was great. It was great. It was very high paced. It was, it was sales. We were in supportive role, so it was sales and supportive role. So the stress was there, the pace was there, but there is no day that goes by today in my business, when I run my business, that I don't think of my previous boss and the way that he used to run his business, because I learned so much from him and from the sales cycle, and how you should just manage the client's expectations and all that. That it's just, it really helped me, and it was really a mentor for me. And I just try to always look at the bright side of things and always try to learn something from people. As hard as traumatic sometimes the experience, our work experiences can be, especially in today's market. Things are really tough. So
that's amazing that you brought your experience from other careers, from other jobs into building a business, because you have to be prepared for it to be really hard, and for people to be critical, and for people to expect a lot of you. And so the fact that you were able to learn that so quickly and so early on, and because you were very young when I met you, when we were working in finance, you were very young, and we both felt like way beyond our years, because we were, taking care of families. We were, living on our own and having all of these adulting responsibility things. Right. And then add that to our high demanding jobs. And so at the time, the both of us struggled in the sense where we were just so overworked, and we just felt so overwhelmed. And we were also trying to find ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing with our lives. It was such a raw time in our life. We were still molding into whatever person we were supposed to become, which now we are the people, or aspire to be. Yes, high five. We made it, but it was hard. It was so hard. But now looking back, it doesn't compare to the things that happened afterwards, which was building a business, being moms, having a family foundation, having to build that foundation. You literally built that foundation. So tell me, once Bundle started and once you got it on its feet, you had a couple clients, you started to get more traction. How did the pace go for you? And at that time, did you still have Nella still kind of?
So Nella relocated, I believe, 2 years after we started with Bundle. And it was such a huge adjustment, because we had to combine our paces and our backgrounds and our skills and all of that. So there's a lot of art that's also involved with that. So it comes with a lot of advantages, but also with some disadvantages. But I feel like it was also a true fundamental learning experience also for me, working in partnership and working alone.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a better person working alone, and this is
Me
this is
too.
yeah. And once she had to relocate to another state, this is I had to do it anyway. So you just learn to just go at your own pace, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And although I do work alone on my day-to-day basis, which is a lot of departments that I have to cover as a single person running a small business. You
Yeah.
have it's a lot of things you have to do. In the type of business that I run in the event decor business, you need to have a team, right?
Yeah.
So, and without a team, you can't really execute anything. So you have to be the creative person, you have to be the director, you have to be the marketing person, you have to be the manager,
The
you have to be the
visionary.
coordinator between
Mm-hmm.
all the among all the vendors coming around. You have to really be a teacher, a mentor, everything to your team, but also make sure that your team is healthy, like mentally and spiritually, because it's tough. I mean, you only have 2 or 3 hours to execute everything, and
Right.
it sounds fun, and it is very fun. At this point, I don't imagine doing anything else, to be honest with you. But it's just it's also very high pace, and it's very stressful. You have to make sure everything there logistically arrives there on time. It has to be executed at a very short or limited time. You got to make sure that your people are on top, and nothing's being missed or or overseen or forgotten. So, and you also have to make sure that you again manage the client's expectations and the clients seeing results, and just always having that magic hand, and always putting a smile on your face whatever happens, in terms of like how hard the execution is. I'm grateful that I've been able to bring it to the point that I could quit my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And this is such a breakthrough moment.
That was amazing, right?
So I found another, while I was building the bundle as a side hustle, I found another opportunity to move to the United Nations, and I worked there with the Industrial Development Office for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice experience, definitely, but it's a completely different animal from the from sales, because it's just very
corporate. Very corporate.
well, not even corporate. It's like completely different from all the American spirit of work.
Oh,
So I had to go back one more time. I had forgotten how to be a European.
Oh my gosh, that's
I had
funny.
to go back, working with a lot of Europeans, a complete different approach.
Different culture, right?
Yes. So I had another shock.
Wow.
Another cultural shock. It was fun, but I think definitely God brought me here to the States for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I'm more like to the point. I'm more straight to. I'm more frontal up front. So I think this the environment here and the society here is definitely more embracing that,
right.
and more
fast paced though. It is very fast paced here.
But I wouldn't really change it for anything.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
I love it here. I really try to make my best, out of everything. So.
And you definitely have.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it was like bringing your husband, Jorgen, to come to the United States? Because you were here for a while by yourself, right?
I was here for about 6 months.
Wow.
But this was the roughest 6 months. I had a great Albanian family who supported me a lot in the beginning, and I'm also very thankful for them. But I still had to, just find a job, be on my feet, find an apartment, furnish the apartment.
Wow.
I wasn't even driving at the time. I had no car, so it was just really hard.
And you were here by yourself, right?
I was here completely by myself.
You came here with a citizenship lottery.
It's called the diversity visa lottery. Yeah,
from
so
Albania.
I won the lottery basically to be a green card holder.
Wow.
And then I
the American Dream Lottery. That's so crazy.
Yes. So but I mean, I always felt like I needed more from life. So, and I guess that's why I'm here. So I've been seeking that. I've been looking for that, and I guess God answers in different ways. Has His ways to really fulfill our wishes. So.
Yeah, and that's so important to have that ambition. Like we talk about mother's ambition, we talk about female ambition.
Yes.
The ambition starts way before we have the kids, and then by the time we have the kids, we have those tools, the tools that you learned building a business,
Correct.
sustaining a business, living here, sacrifices that you made, leaving your country, leaving your family
Correct.
behind to
Yeah.
come here,
Yeah.
and then you have kids,
Yeah.
and then you start a family.
Yeah.
How was that once Jorgen came and you guys started to build a foundation? Jorgen also started his own business,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. So his story is also a success story. He came here as a student, and then we continue to sort of build our relationship here. And then he proposed, and then we married, and
Yeah.
we did all the good stuff.
Yeah.
It was also challenging. We were both very young, and we were so in love back from Albania. We just didn't know how it was gonna turn out for us.
Yeah,
Here,
in a new country, new
it's
culture,
so
new
scary
everything.
because you can grow apart, So, but I really decided to just choose Jurgen as my life partner because I knew that he could handle life, and
Yeah.
he is sometimes greater than life.
Oh my God, I love that.
And I love him for that. And he's just, I don't know, he's my better half, and he's just the backbone of everything that I do. Starting from, just us being a couple and then being a parent. He's like the most amazing parent. We're gonna probably talk about it later.
Mhm.
And just being also the backbone of my business. This is the story of so many immigrants that
Yeah.
need to be really told.
Yeah.
People really need to know about this. And this is, at the end of the day, immigrants are what made this country.
100%. I mean, I'm an immigrant
Right,
too,
so
and
the
we.
foundation of this country.
It really
I have so much
is.
respect. Even now, visiting so many venues when you work or working with so many vendors, just seeing people from so many different nationalities. I really try to be to put an extra thought, and just be extra nice, not fake nice, but just be mindful that everybody's going through a lot. And everybody's just striving, trying to make their living, trying to make their best for their families. So it's just, it really costs you nothing to just have some decency.
Yeah,
just be
of
decent.
course.
So I always try to be, now that I had to go through all these immigrant steps, I try to be more mindful about everybody that I see around. I don't know, a janitor, just somebody that is serving.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so just, yeah.
I grew up the same way, I came here as an immigrant when I was 2 years old, and my parents came here with nothing.
Yes.
They started from scratch, just like you did, just like your parents are doing now
Yes.
here in the US. And it's hard, especially when you're building a family, even years after living here and building your family. It's still, I would assume it's still hard because you were raised a certain way. You had a certain culture, a family. You had all of
expectations of you.
certain expectations, exactly. And now you've had to kind of rewire yourself. Rewire yourself, but building your own culture within another culture. Bundle Sparkle was booming.
Yes.
And you and Jorgen decided we are ready to have a family.
Yes.
How did that go? How did you kind of maneuver that change?
Yes.
How did you prepare for having a baby?
Yes.
How did that all go?
I don't even know.
No, you don't even know. We don't, right?
I wish I had something, specific to say for this. I don't.
Well, was it that you guys waited like a certain time? You wanted to wait until Bundle Sparkle was, or Jorgen's business was a success? Was it money? Was it what kind of geared towards being like, okay, this is the time when we start having a family?
For us, stability, for the both of us, stability has been the most important, probably something that leads us. Like if we don't have plans or things figured out from A to Z.
Yeah.
We just can't work.
Right.
Like we can't function. So we're both very keen and very organizative like that, so that, and of course life never works that way.
Oh my gosh, of course.
So it probably brings us to D.
Yeah.
E, and that's fine too, we just have to have the plans.
Yeah.
We just have to have them ready. So probably that's a way that how we function together as a couple and you as also business owners together. So the moment that Bundle bloomed, that's a moment when Jurgen lost it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because we worked so hard for that moment, and then all of a sudden we're like fully booked. It was really blooming,
Amazing.
Everybody was just coming back from events, and it kept me going, but it was also physically so exhausting. And don't forget, we weren't a big team. We're now a team of a total of 12 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's amazing.
so, and I still work with freelancers, and people like that assist us and support
Yeah.
us. But at the time, we were just the three of us. Actually, it was Jürgen, Marcy, my sister, who's always been a great supporter, and I
Yeah.
know that without her, I wouldn't be, like business wise and woman wise,
Yeah.
everything. Probably I wouldn't be, where I am without the support of the two of them. Really. So so yeah, so it was hard, and I felt so sort of guilty for putting so much pressure to both of them, because it was a family business at that point. It
Yeah.
still is, and that I don't remember how many times I've asked myself and I've asked them, do you want us to just quit? I can just, continue with a regular job, just trying to, like, have a career and things like that. Do you want me to stop? We can stop. We can
Oh my
just tell me to
gosh.
stop, and I will. And they always both look at me and they were like, no,
That's
we're
amazing.
we're gonna go forward with this. You're
Yeah.
not gonna close, and you're gonna actually just put more effort, put all your management skills on set, and just be a better manager, and just hire more people, just bring it to a larger scale. And that's what I did. That's what we did.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah, but without having that
amazing.
push, it's hard.
Having your village.
It's
Yeah.
exactly
Your
it's
village.
so true what they say, that it takes it really does.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So you can go from again from A to B alone, and probably faster, but when you're a group, you can definitely go, more far, and you can just with just, better and more steps with stability.
Yeah.
So, and this is what we did, and I'm just so happy
Wow.
for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with the village and having those
Yes.
people be there and
And the support
supporting
system,
you.
yes.
It's not that much pressure on doing everything alone, and it teaches you teamwork. Because,
Yes.
like you said, I also am not very good at working with other people. I've always just preferred to do things myself,
Yes.
just because I'm afraid that my vision isn't going to come to life unless it's just 100% me. But that's just not the case. You're able to have your vision be transformed into something real if you just put trust in people who trust you and people who believe in you, and your husband and your sister, and now your parents are here to do that for you. And I was always there for you. You came in here and you was like, can I take pictures of Estella? I was like, yes,
I
take
will never
pictures of her. I went and I thought we put her in all these cute outfits and you took pictures of her. It was
Yes.
amazing,
Yes.
amazing. And it's so important to find those people, whether they're family, whether they're friends, who validate.
You were one of the few people who did that, actually.
Oh my
initially.
gosh,
So,
I
and
just
had-
believed in you and what you had. I didn't even know that you were artistic because we worked in finance and
Yes.
all we talked about was finance,
numbers and
economics, and
numbers and
business. And then one day you're like, oh yeah, I actually studied art in Albania. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. And it was just like a really cool, I think our relationship as friends bloomed also because my background was also artistry, singing and
I remember your
performing.
wonderful voice. Yes, I remember. and
Thank
singing
you.
and all that, yeah.
So just having that connection and being like, I know what it feels like to have
Yeah.
that want of being artistically fulfilled and filling your cup in another
It's the
way.
purpose, right?
Right.
That's why you
Right.
exist.
And
So-
we loved our jobs. We
Yeah.
loved our bosses. It paid the bills.
Yes.
We were, nothing goes
unvalued,
unused.
If you're smart enough,
Exactly.
I guess that's our mission, to really be smart enough to just take all of our experience and just put them and just come from a position of
Exactly.
strength.
And that's, I don't know if you saw my episode with Stephanie, but that's what we also talked about with
Yes.
her, that we have all of this education education and experience and careers that we had beforehand, and nothing goes unwasted. Nothing goes wasted because we can take all of that into motherhood, into our businesses. I would like to talk about your pregnancy and working full time and having this business, and at the side you were also still working. Were you working in the UN?
I was working in the UN. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you were working 2 full jobs and pregnant.
Yes,
How was that? That was nuts.
So it was challenging. I had generally a healthy pregnancy. I was very active throughout my pregnancy because I also had to.
Yeah.
But that also gave me complications from here and there. Just working with florals, working with balloons. As much as we tried hiring other people, and just I'm very hands-on. So I had to be there. Hansel was the absolute biggest blessing of our life. He was loved, and wanted, and wished for, and prayed for. And everything went well with my pregnancy. Of course, there's a lot of doubts that come to your mind, as life prepares you, not physically but also mentally, and psychologically and spiritually. I know a lot of moms, and I guess that's totally normal, that have existential thoughts about how am I gonna be a good mom, how is it gonna be, was I ready for this, am I meant for the mom life. I didn't have those questions. It's it's probably because we waited, many years. So we were together for almost 10 years.
Wow.
We worked as a team on so many levels, on so many dimensions. Yeah. We worked as a team on making the baby.
But building the business and having it flourish the way that it did with Jorgen, with your sister. Of course, you had the confidence.
Strong foundation.
Exactly. And you had every trust in the world that, wow, we just built this business out of nothing. Correct. Having a baby is going to be very similar. And it was very similar, except that with a business, you can learn and be validated in ways that being a parent doesn't do that for you.
There's many times it just goes unnoticed or unseen. Anyway, I'm going to tell that there's nothing more rewarding, more fulfilling, more love. I don't know. It's like a love fountain than being a parent. And
100%.
Then, having kids, being a parent. For me, there is nothing more purposeful and no higher purpose than just being a parent and see. I don't know. For me, it's the best roles. It's the best. It's not just one of the. It's probably the best role that I've had yet.
Yeah.
So, although I had a very traumatic birth experience with Hansel.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I think this is something that needs to be talked about the system here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So I was young, right? First birth, and the first birth are usually just difficult, and they last more. We know all.
How old were you?
So I was 28 at the time.
Okay.
28. So and probably because people saw me so active, during my pregnancy, and I had really no complications. So and I was fully prepared physically and mentally and spiritually to just be there.
Yeah.
Bring this baby out.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, nature made us this way, God made us this way, I've got
your body knows what to do.
Yes, this is what our bodies are meant for, so I was fully there, present, no doubts, full, energy on and everything on when and I delivered naturally. But sometimes things don't go as planned.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it is so much needed that things are just seen and handled differently here when it comes to medicine, to healthcare, and to especially to labor. Yeah. And labor management overall. Yeah. So I gave birth in one of the best hospitals in the area. I'm not going to mention it now, but it was supposed to be an amazing hospital. Yeah. Just the thing is that the rooms were full. And although my labor progressed very slowly, my epidural didn't work, or actually it washed off. I was in labor for over 30 hours total, and it's probably something that I should start here. I want to stop here a little bit and just be a little bit, go a little bit slower and really talk about this a little bit in depth, because I think more women should know about this. So my OB, who was amazing, sent me to the hospital at 38 weeks because I was severely swollen, and she suspected preeclampsia, right? And I had high blood pressure and all that. So this is where it started, like the complication started. It was the 3rd of July, actually. So I went to the hospital. She sent me there to just basically give birth, to a C-section. And I was like, but can I go tomorrow? Because I have to go back home because I have 2 events to prepare for the weekend. And it was, this is what the conversation was. And I went to the hospital with my laptop.
Oh my gosh.
So,
that's incredible.
It was, he just he was coming sooner than expected. So at the hospital, because they didn't find enough protein in the urine, they said that they don't have enough reason. Although I had high blood pressure, and although I wasn't doing well, like if you see photos of me of those days, I was really, and my energy was probably at my 5% or 10% of what it usually used to be. So I was sort of failing, in many directions. So they sent me home, So that's fine. I went home. We celebrated 4th of July. And then the next morning, I was so sleepy, just very sleepy. I had started already the maternity leave with the UN. My water broke. So she was sort of right. Like it was probably, I should have had a C-section 2 days prior. Yeah. Now that
now that you think about it.
So, but anyway, we went to the hospital. It progressed very slowly. It occurred to be what they call a prolonged obstructed labor, is how they call it. It progressed slowly. They gave me Pitocin and all the things that they're supposed to do, but it was not progressing correctly. Sometimes it was regressing. And when the active phase started, this was again almost like 26 hours later, after I was in labor. I just gave my very best and pushed for over 4 hours, but there were some moments that the labor was actually regressing, not progressing. So the baby's head was stuck. It just something was not right, But the parameters were okay on the monitor. So I was exhausted. I almost fainted, and it was just it was very traumatic, So I asked for a C-section. I asked 3 times because the baby was stuck midway. I knew that something was not right. It was it was not going.
And you were exhausted after 4 hours.
I was not only exhausted, but I was really, I don't know what gave me the strength to just continue. So the doctor was almost absent, and it was just the midwife there. And the midwife was, what do you mean a C-section? You have to go on. Just keep pushing. So after she told me to take a 20 minutes break and then continue. But I already had lost all of the waters. And the baby was stuck midway for so many hours already, So I knew that it was just not right. And I didn't have a doula with me or any. It was just, by the way, it was Jürgen holding one leg and Marcy, my sister, holding the other leg.
Oh my gosh.
It was really, I don't know what went wrong, but it really didn't feel like a US standard type of birth.
All right.
So after I rested for 5 minutes, I was actually knocked out basically for 5 minutes, not even resting, and I just realized that they were just not putting me through a cesarean. They were not gonna do it. So it was just God, me, and my baby at that point. So I had to give the push of my life and really just give life to this baby, because it was really up to me at that point. So I did. And it was the absolute, best, most beautiful experience, seeing the baby coming out. He had some difficulties breathing and all that. The neonatal team was there, and he was thriving. He was a very active baby, always. The most beautiful baby. He had a bad cephalohematoma, is how they call it, because of the friction with my pelvis.
Yeah.
I realized later that I had a more narrow than usual pelvis, and the baby had a bigger head.
Oh my
So all of this should have
gosh.
just been, I don't know, just managed better,
Right,
So I
yeah.
thought that was it, So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I can do this,
Walking out of here with a baby
yes,
and
like,
I'm
I
alive.
can do this again as long as I give birth to such a beautiful baby. I still didn't care for how traumatic it was, but this is where the problems really started for me. So because of the obstructed labor and because of the straining, my tissues were completely damaged in the birth canal. So I developed very bad. I developed full incontinence, which is urine leaking.
Yeah.
And I was having nerve damage, ligament damage of the bladder. I was having issues with my rectum, with bowel movements. So basically, all the pelvic floor organs were damaged by
my God. Just completely destroyed.
Just completely destroyed.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just very like I struggled with milk supply. I couldn't really breastfeed my baby because of all the trauma.
Yeah.
And we had to wait for Hansel's head to heal. Thank God it was superficial, so it was no brain damage or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was still a lot. It was still very, very traumatic to see, and that all happened, because of that friction and because of how it was handled.
Yeah.
So basically, I was just left there to give birth, and that's just not okay,
God, Frensis.
So I had to undergo treatments. I had to undergo a surgery, which is called a rectocele.
Yeah.
And a cystocele. So I did both of those a month and a half after I gave birth. So imagine how those 6 weeks and how those first 2 months were for me.
I mean, in and of itself, postpartum is hard to heal, but add on all of these other things.
So I had really no time to think, but at that point, I don't know what gave me the strength to be fully on there for the baby, and just take full care of him. And I really had no time to experience any postpartum depression or anxiety or anything like that, because I had my plate full again,
And Frensis, I want to tell you that you're not alone, because I'm telling you that unfortunately this is common. Your specific experience is not common, because we all have different experiences. But as a whole, mothers not being taken care of before having the kids, during and after, is such an issue in this country, and it's such an issue in our healthcare system. And I know that there's so many women out there who have experienced trauma and who recognize that the day that their babies were born was both the worst day and the most beautiful day.
It's gonna be like, it's all
for me, it's that day too. For Stella, when Estella was born, I always say it was the best day and the worst day of my life. And to have that duality in motherhood is so common, not just when you are having the actual baby in labor and delivery, but during pregnancy and after, when you're in parenthood, the things that you experience as a mother that nobody else will understand unless you're going through that. And the fact that we don't have medical professionals who take time to really think about that, to really support mothers after having babies, and having somebody validate that, oh my gosh, yes, we need to listen to them. They're the ones going through this. You were the one going through this birth. You have this intuition, like something is wrong. These are the steps that need to be taken. And for those steps not to have been taken was so detrimental and so traumatizing and so unfair. And it's so unfair. And while we have to walk away with knowing that we're blessed because we walked away with life, and our kids walked away with life, it does not take away the fact that a piece of us died during that time.
Yes,
It
sure.
really did. And for us to have to now navigate finding ourselves again by ourselves and not knowing how do we get those pieces
with our
back?
new selves, yeah.
Right, with our new selves, with our new bodies, because our bodies are completely different than from when we got pregnant and had our first kids. How do we navigate all these things? There's nobody who's guiding us, who's telling us, hey, look out for this. Hey, look out for that. Nobody told me that after having Estella, I would have gallstones and that I would have to go back to the hospital 2 weeks after having a C-section, an emergency section, to get an organ removed. And nobody followed up with me after I had my gallbladder removed. Nobody told me, you need to take care of this. This is what needs to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what you need to take care of. This is what you need to do, what you don't need to do. Nobody did that. And so that's where our power comes from. That strength, knowing that unfortunately, it's either you and God. It's you and all of the energy and power of the universe that comes to you in that moment. That's all that's going to get you through this. So you went through that incredibly traumatic birth and you had your baby.
But basically, they ruined my mother. They just ruined my
And that's the worst part. The fact that we would have loved to have looked back and said, you know, we had a great pregnancy, we had a fantastic birth. It's just never like that. It's never that black and white. There's always something.
There's always something going on, and that's understanding, and it's traumatic as it is. You know, as you said, we sort of bury our older self and a new person born
because we have to, because we have to be strong for our kids. We have to,
and that's something that you have to go through anyway. But the neglect and the way that things are being handled and managed in this country, and how people are being seen just as statistics and just as numbers, because hospitals need to keep their natural birth, vaginal birth ratios and all that. That's not okay.
That is not okay.
So I started to learn more about this because I had to go through a very long recovery after my surgeries. And again, thank you for my family who were always there, supporting me, taking care of the baby. I could barely stand up for the following 4 weeks after my surgery because the recovery was long, and it was very it was just, I don't know.
How long after did you have the surgery after having Hansel?
2 months.
Oh my God.
2 months. So it was just, I mean, the baby was little, and it was just a lot going on. But I started looking for an attorney, for a lawyer, and I worked. I probably have had consultations with over maybe 15 or 17 different law offices.
Wow.
And this is where I realized that this was not just a problem with that hospital. This is a problem with the healthcare system in this country. It needs to be changed. People need to the government needs to do something about it. They really need to intervene, because it is not okay for people to be treated like numbers. And I understand the approach, and I am totally pro natural birth and all that. But there's so many components that need to be seen. So after all of this happened, I started to read a lot more, right? And I started to just educate a lot, to educate myself a lot more.
And that's what we have to do, because we don't have the resources. We don't have programs that teach us all of this.
So the legal frame and just the way how the legal system and the doctor's system is built here legally, and the language that is used for midwife's manual or midwife's care or practice or labor care manual is so different from literature that I read from abroad, or let alone from World Health Organization. I found a manual there that sort of instructed midwives for labor. And there is, Lulu, I swear, there's so many sections that mention the mother's comfort, the mother's well-being and just the mother's existence.
Yes.
You know, because it's not just about the
The
baby.
treatment.
It's also about because the baby. Okay, all right. So you have the baby,
but it starts with the mother, 100%.
It's not just to make it about ourselves. It's not. It's just that we are the caregivers of these babies.
We are the vessel.
So we have to make sure that you leave the mother healthy and capable of taking care of this child. Otherwise, it is neglect.
Yes.
All the attorneys that I met with, all their doctors, like the legal consultants that they had, they all told me the same thing. And this is what made me realize that there is a problem with the legal frame in this country, that it is so hard for these cases to prove the neglect. And it's also mostly because most of the doctors of the same hospitals that we've been going around in the area are part of the same councils. That they just have built the system in this way to sort of protect themselves. So it's just so hard to go against them. But I'm not really going against them. You know, I'm just going against the hospital. I'm going against the management team. I'm going against how
things are run.
How things are run. Correct.
Exactly.
Because I understand
it doesn't have to do with that specific doctor or the specific experience. It has to do as a whole.
So believe it or not, no attorney would take my case. So it was.
Honestly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it was just gone and forgotten, and that it's not right. You know, because women have to be just taken care more, you know, just for the fact that they are actually the caregivers of the new generation, of these babies, of the, you know, it's crazy because I had to relieve the trauma every time that I spoke, and I told my story to every possible
gosh. And Francis, I have to tell you, you have the strength and the courage that I didn't have, because I was told after I had Estella that I needed to take those steps, that I should go and get a lawyer, and that I should go and advocate for myself because of all of the pain that I suffered from my first delivery. And like you said, it's not about the doctor. It's not about that one facility even. It's about as a whole system.
The system is backwards.
The whole system. And I didn't have the energy and the courage afterwards. I was a single mom. I didn't have the time. And the same thing, I didn't want to relive my trauma over and over and over again, because after that, it's worse. I don't know what's worse, to bottle everything up and then just walk away from that hospital and just take it as it is and just move on. But I'm not moving on, because you're holding everything inside and you're not advocating for yourself. And then there's you, who goes and advocates for yourself even after all the surgeries, even after having the baby and experiencing all the trauma, and still not getting the support that you need. So that's so flawed. That's so unfair, that we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, and we just have to just keep going.
Just keep going, because you have the baby too, and you, with babies, as you said, with business, maybe you can. With the business, maybe you can take a step back. You know, you can learn from your mistake. But with the kid, with the baby, you just have one shot at making things right, because they're not gonna be this small anymore. You know, they change every day as they grow. You just have to keep up with the pace. Like once you thought that you got the routine with the baby, and you know you're like on top of it, then the baby grows, and then a new phase starts. So you have to just keep rolling.
And it's not like you have time after you have the baby to even like snap back into reality. Like I talked about with Stephanie, that she only had 11 weeks, and it wasn't even paid. And she worked for the government. So how is that okay? How is that okay? She gets 11 weeks unpaid and is expected to come back to work for the government, to work as a prosecutor. So it's just like, how are we supposed to raise our families? How are women supposed to have the courage to even start families? And it's important to tell these stories, because it's not what everybody says. You know, the books, I'm sure we've read all of the books.
Yeah.
None of these books talk about this.
They don't.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
just so you know,
Yeah.
you're not going to get any support after you have your kids. The only support you're going to get is family and friends if you have family and friends.
Yeah.
But if you don't have family and friends, then you're alone.
Yeah.
And even if you do have the support, you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually have to find it in yourself to just keep going.
Yeah.
We'll have, you know, therapy available for you, which for me, postpartum therapy was fantastic because I had postpartum depression. But I mean, that's the only thing. And my insurance only covered for 2 months of postpartum depression therapy. After that, I was expected to pay out of pocket. After that, you know, they had like not a graduation, but they had like, oh, you know, the therapist would be like, oh, you know, I think you're coming to the end of your 2 months. You think you're okay. I think you're okay. I think you got this. Meanwhile, I'm like, no, I don't. So just, you know, thankfully we have small, you know, programs here, like postpartum programs, but like that's not enough.
But the problem is that there's pieces of puzzles, but there is a missing infrastructure. There is no infrastructure that supports family in the States, and that's really a shame. I think, and I think things need to be changed. And because if you're talking about third world countries, then you would understand. But talking about one of the most developed countries in the world, you know, as much as I love living here, you know, and everything that comes with it, there are really some things that, you know, we can do better, you know, as a country, as a society. And I just really hope that maybe it's time, you know, and it will take time, of course. This is not a overnight process or change. But I think it really needs to be talked out more and just
and starts with telling our stories.
So again, thank you for you know, creating this opportunity,
of course,
channel for women to really express themselves and just talk about the real deal.
The real
sugar-coated photos that you see on Instagram, or just, you know, all the fakeness that you see, all
the hard part isn't having the child, because the easy part is raising the child. I think, in my experience, it's everything else, all the other loads that we have to carry. Because trauma, you should read the book The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. I'm going to get it for you. He speaks so candidly and so brilliantly about the system and how they don't support mothers, and how in other cultures it is sacred to be around a woman who is pregnant. There in other cultures, this is from Dr. Gabor's Mate's book. He talks about how in some cultures they treat pregnant women like they are queens. That anybody who is going through depression or having a bad day is not allowed to be around a pregnant woman out of fear, not out of fear of the baby feeling it, because you know, that's kind of what we grew up hearing, like, oh, you know, the baby stress, this and this. It's more about the mother, and the mother, let's not put stress on her. Let's not have negative energy around her. In other cultures, women don't work, period, during their maternity time. And then maternity leave, in some countries, it's a year, 2 years paid. So it's, why are we so behind? I feel like it's not even like being behind at this point. It is just a decision that we're just like we're not taking. For whatever reason, we're not taking. Right. And I understand that there are so many people out there who, at least now in our generation, that women don't feel the need to take the time after having a baby, like business women and people who...
And that's okay, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't create the system and the, you know, like the infrastructure, as I said, should be there. It's fine. We'll get there, and maybe this is what drives us, and this is why we strive. You know, and we're never gonna finish, you know, or end just or never gonna lose our voices. I'm sure, you know, even like you and like me are gonna continue to talk about this.
Yeah, we need to. If not to make a change in the system, to at least have other women be aware of what could happen and the lack of support that they will have when they decide to have a family. Because you could be American by birth, you could be grown up here your whole life, you could have the money, all the money in the world, but it's not going to change the system. You're going to be treated like every other person out there who walks into a hospital and has a baby, and you're going to and also life doesn't happen as planned. You can have the healthiest pregnancy in the world, the happiest pregnancy, and you can go into that labor and delivery and everything could go haywire, unplanned, and you just have to trust that whoever is there to support you is gonna do what's right, especially somebody who went to school and studied medicine for this, and then to walk away and be like,
care driven, right? Like to run their business, and at the end of the day, it is a business for them too, but they're supposed to run it with care,
right? And you walk away from there thinking that you were going to have that support, and then you have the shock that no, you didn't. You were not heard. You were literally just the body there having a baby, and the baby had the support, thankfully, flourishing, being great. But then what about, we were just like left there to kind of 2 hours later after having this baby start walking around.
So they just discharged me from the hospital. They didn't take any responsibility. My OB wouldn't see me. Imagine the conditions that my body was. She wouldn't see me. I had to wait until 6 weeks after I gave birth. She wouldn't see me before. Can you believe this? And I also called other OBs because I had to be seen, you know? And they were like, no, you know, you have to see your OB 6 weeks after, and then we can see you afterwards. So how can you just leave? How can you just
unbelievable?
It's like
right, and that's how it is. That's how it was me too. So I delivered Estella, and I didn't see my OBG after the trauma that I experienced. You just like, hey, where's the doctor? Nope, you'll have a follow-up with him in 6 weeks. I had to wait 6 weeks, and not even just that, but sometimes like it's longer than that.
And I understand the part that the body needs itself to heal, and that everything goes back to it's supposed to go back to normal, and 6 weeks is enough time you should give yourself for that. Like, we understand all of that, but sometimes
it doesn't go like that.
It doesn't go like that. Sometimes there are complications and conditions and complications that happen that need to be taken care of, you know? So my lessons learned is that you have to research your OB really good, and you have to be very, very demanding with your OB, and you have to take a visit at the hospital before, and also make sure that your OB will be the one delivering your baby, because it wasn't like that in my case. You know? So I never met a doctor before.
Wow.
And as much as they can read your charts, they don't know you. And they you know, they really don't. So, and if you feel like something is going wrong, you really need to leave your options open.
Listen to your intuition.
Yes, but also prepare the doctor, and just prepare your the staff. Just prepare them, and just be more demanding and be more there, you know.
Advocate for yourself.
I know people hire doulas that do that for them. I didn't do it because I trusted the system, and I trusted this country, and I trusted the system, and that I thought that everything was gonna go okay, you know. And I don't have much experience, like personal experiences with hiring doulas. I know that they can be very beneficial, but I don't understand why you have to go privately and pay extra money while this service should be incorporated with your whole birthing experience.
Exactly.
You know? So it's just, again, here something is crooked. You know, like something's not right here.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I understand that it's very money oriented. You know, and then it's all business and all that, but there are some components of the society and some components of the of just, the world that we live in that you can't compromise with. And I think labor is one of these components.
Yeah.
That you really, the country should really,
not just the support labor for the actual birth for the child, but for the mother.
We spoke about, yeah,
for the mother.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can do better there.
Yeah, we can. Yes.
I feel like we can do better there.
Yes, we can. It was crazy because going and having that experience, just like I did my first experience, traumatic. How in the world did you find it in yourself to have the strength to then have another baby very, very soon after that, right?
The second pregnancy.
Yeah.
Harper. Harper May, who is just the absolute healing of my soul.
Yeah, we were talking about this before.
Yes, I was telling Hansel is like my pride, it's like my thrive, it's like my never-ending fountain, of just blooming and bursting everything.
Yeah.
And Harper is my healing, is my, I don't know.
She grounds you.
Yes, I'm so obsessed with my kids, as every mother is, I'm sure, and should be. But they are a lot of work. So let's get to the moment how Harper was created.
Oh my gosh, very, very surprised.
Yeah, so it was
shock.
It was the holidays, right? And to be honest, until the moment that I gave birth, I was when we were, telling people that I got pregnant again after everything that happened, I was blaming it on Jürgen. So it was a surprise baby.
Yeah, I know.
It was actually happened around Christmas time.
Yeah, how old was Hansel? Hansel was just a couple
Hansel
months.
Was like 5 months?
Yeah.
Not even 6 months.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was a Christmas miracle, and we wouldn't really. We knew it could happen, so we had a discussion, as adults do.
Right.
And we were like, so what are we, do you want to take any precautions or do anything? That's what you were going to ask me. And I was like, you know what, if it's God's will, it's God's will. It'll happen. But I don't know if I really meant it.
Oh my God. And I don't think you really expected it to happen that quickly, too.
But it did. It did. And the truth is, it can.
Yes.
It can happen really, really fast and really soon. So ladies, just be careful out there. This is not something I recommend.
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
Definitely a lot to take on. Being pregnant, with so many health conditions, and then followed with my second pregnancy, because it was a very, very different, totally different, so difficult pregnancy.
Yeah.
And then having a baby, a teething baby who's learning to walk, who is fully dependent on you, and who just cries nonstop because of the fussiness of teething and just, everything else. I don't know. So until the moment that I gave birth, I was blaming it on Jürgen. Basically,
of course, it's their fault.
But then when Harper came to life, and it was a completely different birth experience. It was with a different team, physician's team.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to be a C-section because I developed a gestational diabetes.
Oh my gosh.
And so many other conditions like hip that had to do with my hip and with my pelvis that they were left from the first birth trauma.
Right, that you never recovered
from. That again could have been prevented. So I had to stay to have also bed rest for a couple, sometimes a couple of periods during my pregnancy. So it wasn't the optimal experience, but the birth experience was a completely different one with a planned C-section. Mm-hmm. And the doctors were there, and as I'm sure most of them are, especially in the area that we live in. So yeah, but the thing, the guilt, for getting pregnant so soon, and for just having Hansel being so little, and just I was doubting myself. How could I do this to this little baby? I could really not just enjoy him fully.
Yeah,
I was having second thoughts and doubts when I did the spinal, and I was just waiting for and Jürgen was there, of course, by my side. I was having the biggest doubts of my life happening on that bed. Mm-hmm. Until I heard the first cry. So it has like songs.
Yes.
And with Harper, I heard her. So the moment that I heard her voice, I don't know, just all the doubts completely shattered, and I just a whole new universe really opened up. So and this is how we learn to reborn again, and just get bigger. This is how your heart gets bigger, you know.
That's how we recharge.
Correct.
That's
So
how
it just,
we, our
I don't know.
kids.
I just got at that moment. This is a moment that my heart got bigger. I got bigger, like a whole new universe opened up for me.
Yeah.
And it just gave me the strength to do the rest. And trust me, 202
Keep
is
going
not
to
easy.
survive. Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents were nice enough and amazing enough. I cannot thank my parents enough for making the decision to leave their country, to leave Albania and all the good lives that they have worked hard all their lives to get to. They just left everything behind. Their good jobs, they just left everything behind to join us, because I'm now a citizen, so they could come here as through immigration, as permanent residents, and that's what they're doing. So my mom is helping me full time with the kids, and she's absolutely my hero, as crazy as it can get, with all the fights. And then my dad is just being there, just being the supporter of, his little family, and Jürgen of our little family. So yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah. I just
it's amazing.
Going back, I can't believe how much we've grown. And how much
And don't you feel like in just these last 5 years, we have had, I tell people all the time, I feel like I've lived like 7 different lives.
Biggest transformations.
7 different lives, and I feel like I've been 7 different people too, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I've been so many versions of myself, and now we're at a point where we just have to figure out what version of ourselves is the version that needs us right now. Like, what version does my children need? What version does my environment, does my husband need? Does my work need? So it's and still just constantly finding yourself, trying to put those pieces back together by yourself, because we've learned already that this is something internally that we have to do for ourselves, for our kids too.
Correct. So the thing that really overwhelms us, I guess, as new moms, is just the fact that all these 7, 8 people that you were just talking about, we have to be sometimes all of them at the same time.
Oh my gosh,
this
yes.
is what overwhelms us.
Yes.
But we can only take it one step at a time, and that it's really hard to learn how to slow down, and really how to embrace the different phases of our,
and to be present
in different phases of our lives, and and in our different roles, as you said. So it's all like a juggling game, and it's all just you just have to pick the person that you need to be right now, and just robotically, but also being spiritually there, but also emotionally being so cold, to be able to just cut it.
Grounded.
And just pick the person you need to be and be that person, and be 200% of that person.
Yes.
2 or 3 people.
I love that imagery. That is so true. It's like we've got all of these. It's like that movie Inside Out. Have you seen the movie Inside Out? It's like you've got all these different versions of yourself up here, and you just have to pick and choose which version. And you said sometimes we have to be all of them. We have to be all of them at the same time. And that is what goes unnoticed for us mothers. That is where, like, even if we did have the support, what kind of support would be able to help us with something like that? And for me, what's helped me the last year and try to balance that struggle of not knowing who I am and what version of me is needed at all times has been the spiritual work that I've done with myself, because the internal work, which is, I cannot continue to drag my life, to keep dragging the trauma and the pain and the regret that I have, the things of, like, to this day, I'm still saying, like, oh, I should have advocated for myself. I shouldn't have waited until I was 40 weeks and 5 days pregnant with Estella. Maybe that would have never happened, because you can't put the blame on, if the system's not going to help you, advocate for you and tell you you were right.
Yeah.
You're right to blame the system. You're right to blame the hospital or the doctor or anybody else. Then you have to find that validation within yourself. But it's also hard because at the end of the day, you start to blame yourself. You start to say, if I hadn't gone to the hospital earlier, if I hadn't demanded that I be induced earlier or this or that, then maybe I would have never had to go through that. But the problem is that you can't go back.
Right.
You cannot go back. And even if you had the lawyer who fought and gave you the money, that's not going to take away.
It's not about the money.
It's right. Or like validating or whatever. It's not going to take away that happened.
Yeah. So it's funny because during while I was explaining myself about the lawyer and about all the fact that I decided to raise my voice and do this, I never mentioned the money.
Yeah.
It was really never.
It's not about the money. It's not. It's just about validation. Somebody needs to tell me I was right. I'm right. This should not have happened.
No matter how much as you said, that reimbursement could have been, it will never catch up, or it will never reimburse the time that was lost, the emotional damage.
Exactly, and like you said,
the job that I had to sacrifice from. So the moment that I got pregnant with Harper, I decided to leave the UN and just focus primarily on bundle, just for flexibility reasons.
And at that point, it became a full-time job.
It was a full-time job.
It was a full-time job.
Right.
Wow.
But that was the moment that I decided that, you know what, maybe I'm just not meant to, just handle so much and just, try to always be the bigger person for everyone around me.
Yeah.
And this is the moment that you come to realization, and you really realize that you really should just rearrange priorities of your life. So after having kids, you have to do this. It's like your responsibility. If you don't do that, then something's wrong with you.
Yeah, and burnout is such a huge thing, not just after having the first child, but having after 2 kids and having your own business and having to take care of, because it's like you're running all of these different businesses. It's bundle, it's your family foundation, which involves your husband. Then there's the kids. Then there's each individual kid, because they both have different needs. They're different people. They're different needs. And then bringing your parents over, which is another, and your sister. And it's like all of these different things that, like you said, it's juggling. And you at some point have to decide, you have to pause and say, I don't need this ball. This ball is not, I do not need to juggle this ball.
Can we just deal with this ball later?
And that's what it is. Like, you can put it in your pocket and say, maybe this is something I can come back to later, but right now, it is not a necessity. It is not a priority.
Right now, there's only 3 balls that I can handle, so
right.
Let's just do this right now. So also distributing work and we've learned this in our work life too, not just in life, but I feel like it all comes down to management, right? We are managers of our day-to-day life anyway, right? And it's somebody's success, again, to me, is not about the money, is how about they manage their life. If it's with your kids, if it's with your husband, for me, this is success, to be able to find that fine line, or to at least be close to it.
Yeah.
Because I know you always
and have the freedom to do it too.
Correct. So I mean, it's just it's a work of art.
It really is.
It's a work of art. But this is what life is, and this is what life is about, and we are so happy to have these experiences, and we are so blessed to be able to have carried kids and have kids and raise families, and just be there for our families and for our friends and for our supporters, and for people who don't support us but who show up anyway. It's okay.
That too. Oh my gosh.
We see that, but okay. It's gonna be there for you. So for me, it's important to just be able to just balance things out, but not balance things out at one certain point of time, but balance things out throughout the time.
Right, to continue to find that balance.
Right, so don't forget about the time factor, because you you can't do everything, you can't be everything, and you can't
all at
do
once.
everything all at once.
That's
right?
so
So
true.
you need to understand, prioritize your needs, and it's you, your kids, your husband, and then everything else come. I mean, sorry, husband, you come third, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is what it
And they
is.
know,
Yeah.
and this is why they're great at what they do.
Exactly.
Because they are the backbone of the family. And they're, they have our backs. So yeah. So thank you, husbands, for that. So I know life comes in different ways at you, and with different challenges. Some people have to be a single parent, for instance. I mean,
Yeah.
So and there's just there's so many things that can happen in life, that life can put you through different challenges that you have to overcome. But I think where we went wrong with all the feminism move and all that is that we forget that we just need to, like, the equality is just looking for, or just needs to be asking for equal chances. Right? So asking for equality and for equal chances does not mean for us to become men, or for men to become women,
Right.
in their roles. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
Because we can still have our roles and just still be equally treated, equally respected, and equally heard and listened to.
Yeah.
So this is where I think there is so much pressure in capitalism, and there is so much pressure in the Western woman right now, that I don't think is necessary, and I think that we first put ourselves through it, and I think it's wrong. And I try not to do that, not because I am not very independent, and not because I'm not a knucklehead, because I am, and not because I really want to have things my way, because I do. But we also, through our life experiences, realize that, as you said, life has, maybe with age, maybe with experiences, we realize that life is not as black as white, but it has more, there's a gray zone, and there's more colors to it, and we are there to bring those colors in, so so I think it's important to have the equality chances, the equal chances, to look for it, to ask for it, and just for everybody, regardless if it's a man or a woman, or it doesn't really, just every single individual, regardless of, I don't know, just
even
age,
their background,
ethnicity,
race,
background, it doesn't really
age.
matter.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not even about gender at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just about humanity, I think.
Yeah.
So it's our responsibility to demand it, and it's also our responsibility to offer it to other people, so that everybody has an equal space, an equal share, and we just coexist in those spaces, in those shares with each other.
Yeah.
So that we don't really have to just put all the pressure to one person. Same as I don't think that it's fair for many men to have the burden of just being not only just the provider of the family, but also doing everything else, like doing the chores, doing the laundry, because there are also a lot of fathers who do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair. I think it's just family is just a small system, of just coexisting and making things work, and just teaching our kids how the bigger
regardless of the gender roles.
Yeah, regardless regardless of the gender roles, and it is important to teach roles to our kids. I'm gonna say that for me that is important, but it's also important to understand that it's all a matter of a balance in life, just finding a balance. So my father, a couple of days ago, he was looking at me and Harper, and he was like, "So what do you think Harper is gonna do? Like what is gonna be your strongest work point with Harper?" And I was telling my dad, it really doesn't matter to me, like what type of profession she's gonna choose or what she's gonna want to do. For me, I think it's important that I sort of nourish, or sort of help her develop within herself the will or the self-consciousness to just find your inner calm and just find your inner balance. So if she's able to do that, and if she's not lost, because I see so many individuals being lost and they're just surviving, that's our job also, and our responsibility as parents, to just teach our kids how to find their purpose and balance in life,
and nourish that,
so it doesn't matter if they want to be a doctor, fine. If they want to be I don't know, a violinist, that's fine. If they want to sing, if there are many singers that are so great at their careers that they do, and they're doctors who are completely, I'm just taking doctor as one of the most high paying professions. So you get it. So but there's so many doctors who are so not complete, who don't feel
who
complete
aren't happy
with their life, and
doing what they're doing.
So
they go through all of this time of being, in any like one of those big professions, architect, engineer, doctors, lawyers, all of these people who go years and years and years of studying and all of this, but they're not fulfilled.
They're not
not happy.
So it's about,
they're not satisfied. And I completely agree with you that is one of the most important things that we can do for our kids is support them and nourish them and guide them at a distance.
Yes.
We don't need to lead them in a specific direction.
So that they can stand on their feet. And that's what my parents did with me. They worked so much on my self-esteem.
Yeah, me too.
And on just me being self-confident. And they were really not afraid to literally just leave me, go to another continent at 20
years old.
And I made it.
Crazy.
I made it. I started at a very, I started at a start job, because you have to. And then I became a director where I was.
Yeah.
And then I had a coordinator role at the UN, and that was not very common for people at my age for UN, believe it or not. And now I'm leading my business. So this is something that I think is our goal as parents, just to make sure to see our kids being able to stand up on their feet and being able to always look for the balance within themselves, because happiness is way too cliche, and we all, as adults, we all know that it only comes in waves. But if you look for some sort of stability, then you know who you are. You have you are a centered individual, that you know where your center is. I see so many people around it, they don't have no center.
They have no have no center. They have no idea who they are, they're just what they want to be. And that is like one of our biggest fears as parents.
And you know what, that's fine, because we're always should be in the lookout for that. We should always be. It's not an overnight thing. You found it, then you're good,
right?
Because that changes with you, because we all change every day. Through all our life phases, we change. So we make sure that we carry that center always with us, and then we make it a bigger center, a more sturdy center, so that it can also shelter our kids and the next generation. So yes, that's my goal as a parent. So I hope if I can do that, just like to the degree that my parents did,
then you did your job.
I'm gonna be the happiest parent in the world.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. And I think that all has to do with how we were raised too, and we had that support. My parents as well, they always supported everything and anything that I wanted to do. They saw from a very young age that I was artistic, that I loved to sing, that I wanted to do music, and they nurtured that. They paid for the lessons, they did all that. They never forced me to do anything I didn't want to do. I was not a sports kid. They didn't force me to do this or do that. The academic side of it too for me was very difficult, growing up as an immigrant and having English not be my first language.
I can imagine.
So, but they were very understanding, and they weren't like so strict about academics. They nurtured it. They said, this is important. You need to read books. We need to do this. But they kind of helped me find my own way. And that's so important, not just for the kids that you're raising, but also for yourself.
Right.
Because you have to be able to live your life, not always being worried and on top of your kids and having to navigate their lives, because once they become adults, they're going to be lost. You have to expect them to do it on their own. And how are they going to know how to do that if you're constantly trying to navigate where their lives should go? So if you nourish that from very young age, they will be able to grow up to be independent,
Yep.
fully sufficient of taking care of their own lives and being able to, fly the nest without having to worry about their parents telling them, making decisions for them. We'll always be there to support them and to help them and to answer any questions that they may have. But that's a really hard thing to do as a mom, even when they're really tiny, letting them do things by themselves, especially now like Hansel. No. He's not a baby anymore.
Yes,
he's now
a little boy.
A little boy.
I'm not ready. I'm telling you right now, I'm not ready for it.
And we just had this conversation about, thinking about him going to school. And that is like one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yes, I can imagine.
My kids.
I've cried, believe it or not, I've cried for all my friends' kids when they went to kindergarten. I was looking at the picture and just crying, all day. I got so emotional because I know it's a big milestone.
It's a big milestone, and it's so hard
for us. Like for us too,
Yeah, but you have to know that it's the best thing for them to go out there.
For sure.
And to, figure out their life and how to regulate themselves.
For sure.
But before that, we have to teach them how to regulate themselves.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to know how to regulate yourself.
Yeah, and that's by just letting go a lot of your baggage, a lot of the guilt, a lot of the generational baggage.
The generational trauma.
All the generational baggage. And it's really our responsibility and our duty to just, just raise our kids knowing of that, like understanding, respectful of that, but also not necessarily feeling the guilt or the responsibility of holding that and just carrying it.
It's hard though,
because that's probably the hardest, because we are wired this way. This is how we were built, especially as immigrants, especially immigrants. Like the stronger the family is in the culture, I feel like the more, it comes with its greatness, of course, but it also comes with a lot of baggage that you sort of need to organize yourself and then just make sure to keep some for yourself and not pass it over to your kids when they grow up. It's going to be easier on them in this sense because they're going to grow up here. They're going to be, like full all Americans. So it's going to be I feel like we're going to have a different set of challenges, having them grow up here, so many things that we're not going to be really liking, but then making sure, that they have their heritage also. And
like we talked about this before, just like building our own culture within the culture. And that's what we have to do because we were raised by our culture and our background and our first language is completely different than what we're living here. But it doesn't mean that we have to completely remove that from our parenting because at the end of the day, your kids are going to be Albanian. They're 100% Albanian in the sense where both of their parents are from there. And my kids are going to be always half Hispanic because they're being mostly raised, by one parent, which is me, both of the dads work and I'm the one doing the raising, and I was raised by two Hispanic Ecuadorian parents, very proud parents. So the only thing that we have to kind of look back on is the way that we were raised. But now we have the freedom to pick and choose, like, okay, this was healthy for me when I was a kid. This type of support, this type of encouragement was healthy for me. This is the same type of encouragement and support I want to give my kids. But then there are also other things that you look back on and say, I could have been okay with not this type of...
Yes, of course. And as a kid, you don't quite understand that because you just go with the flow, and then you see that as a model, you know.
You don't know anything else.
And that's fine. But then as an adult, especially when you become a parent, you really see that there are things you want to pick from and then things that you can just readjust. But I think anyway, the family values should remain and should be embraced.
Yeah.
And also the, as you said, the heritage, where you're coming from, all the, and it's really regardless of the culture or anything, but it's the foundation that helps us find that center, so that center that we were talking about before. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely not easy being raised as the first daughter of tough either immigrants' parents or just parents who are demanding. My parents were demanding, and I thank them for that. But there's just things that you want to do different, because we're a different generation anyway, and our kids are gonna do different because they're a different generation anyway. Right. So we just do the best that we can
to survive. Your beautiful business. We talked about how it started off with photography, how it started off, kind of with this small idea that grew and expanded into this beautiful, beautiful empire.
Thank you.
Please.
Well, I wouldn't say empire.
It is 100% an empire, because what you do, you're now you're an event planner.
Yes.
You plan and you have it all bundled up. Yes. It's a one-stop shop. Tell me about your business and why moms and everybody should be contacting you for their event.
Thank you. So yes. So I always had this one-stop shop idea in mind, because I really want to save the hassle, of just contacting everyone. I love parties and I love celebrating life, and I think life should be celebrated, and that's why I created Bundle Sparkle, actually, because I think that life is worth being lived for and just celebrated for. So but that comes especially when you have a lot of other baggages in your day-to-day life that we just spoke about. It's just hard to just do everything, and just managing different vendors, like a photographer, the decorator, the cakes person, all of this is just you have the money, you are spending a lot of money, because of course these are things that require a lot of money. Let's be real about it. And this is something that you do for fun, right? So it's sort of a luxury industry anyway, know. So you decide to invest, your money into just creating joy for the people you love. Let's put it that way. You want to make sure that it's worth it.
Right? Especially if you're trying to put your vision to life.
Right. So, and you want to make sure that it's completely worth worth the money, worth your time, and then you do it stressless, and then you can just show up and just enjoy that day. So that day is not really your burden, but it's also your celebration, among everything else. So if you want to do that, you can just contact me.
Call Frensis. Yes.
Just call me. I got you.
So what services specifically does your bundle, does Bundle Sparkle provide?
We in-house, we do all event decor. Meaning all tablescapes, centerpieces, fresh florals, the focal points for either sweetheart tables or just focal points for events, photo ops, seating charts, entry stations. It's basically everything that you see when you enter the event. All the visual part of it, we do it in-house. And then we have, I would say, just a broad list of partners that we work with. They cover also the sweets, so the desserts, the cake. We have very, very good relationship and partnerships with photographers, videographers, photo booth. So if you need, if you need to have all of this, so you can start with decor, and this is where our small starter packages begin. And then if you need a full event planning service, then we provide that as well. And I'm so proud and so happy to share and to say that we've been having such great feedback, and I'm really so grateful for all the reviews that I'm getting, all the feedback that I'm getting from clients, all the good Google account and Google reviews that we've been able to establish, because that's really not easy to establish, and it has come to me back. It has come back to me in such a natural way that I really see that every effort, every piece of emotion, and all the heart that I've been putting into business, and the clients who have already worked with me, they know. They know all of this. I'm so happy that everything that I've been putting out there, it's coming back in such a good vibe and in such a good energy, and it's just multiplying itself into referrals, into clients, into new clients, and for me, the happiest thing to see, in all honesty, is to see my clients' families grow with ours. And I mentioned this to them, and it really makes me so emotional, because I've had clients who I did their bridal showers for, that I literally, seen them really literally walk through the altar, and it's just been so emotional. And I see that now they have kids, so I'm doing their kids' baptisms, their kids' first birthdays, and it just
I'm one of those clients.
Yes, you are.
I have been there from day one. Estella was born, and you did the photography, and then every single event after
you
that.
are actually the perfect example of one of those guys, and that fills my heart so much with joy, and it's just
amazing.
It just motivates me.
I would not even think of going anywhere else.
Thank you.
Because it's not just bringing our vision to life in these events. It's the customer service that you provide. It's not even, I wouldn't even consider it customer service. It's like a familial service that you provide, because you take care of everything. You come and you're always there with positive and so happy to be there, and you can tell.
And I am. I really am.
Yeah, what you do is something you are so passionate about, and you love being part of these very special moments, these events, and just being a little piece of you, being part of it.
Yes.
It's so incredible, because you see it through your work. You see it through you when also just planning it, like the back end stuff that people don't see. There's the event, and there's the beautiful decor, and there's everything, but there's
so much behind it. Yes, that's true.
The communication, you were so easy to get in contact with. You're always open to any ideas, and you're always able to kind of come together with whoever's your client.
Yes.
To come together to do whatever possible to give them
give them joy. At the end of the day, yes, exactly.
Exactly. So it's so beautiful to see this artistry come through in your business, in your family, and what you do, everything down to the little details.
Thank you.
I'm just remembering Lucas's first birthday, the Yoda Star Wars birthday party that was fun for him. To this day still get people who are like, "Oh my God, it was such a beautiful arc that you had," and the little picnic area for the kids, and all these details. They're all in our pictures. It's
forever,
like
right?
It's forever, and that's so beautiful.
That makes me so happy. It's really a way that, and thank you for saying all of this. By the way,
it's incredible.
So it just this way I really see that I am being impactful. So I am making an impact, and I'm just making everybody around me, or everybody that decides to work with me, I'm making them just a little bit happier. I'm giving just a little bit of more positivity to their lives than what they have. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm doing it.
And it's an incredible support that you provide, not just with your vendors, but being the person who takes on the responsibility of taking care of everything.
Yes, that's me.
That is so hard, because as moms, like, we always have to be the ones who plan the parties and the communions and the baptisms and all of these things. And it's so stressful, because we don't have the time
to deal with it,
to do that,
or even the nerve, or just
having somebody like you just take
someone
the
you
reins.
can trust.
Someone that you can trust. Somebody take the reins and say, "Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me what your vision is.
Yes.
What do you want? and I will do everything in my power to make that come true for you. And you take care of the vendor communications, right?
Yes, everything.
Everything.
The execution.
The execution.
Basically, you just bring the people.
Breakdown.
You just bring the people. We bring the party. Yeah.
It's amazing what you do, Frensis. And I'm so excited for your business to continue to grow. It is already become probably so much more than you ever thought it would be. But at the same time, you knew it was going to be this successful and you kept going. Yeah. And it translates into your parenting too. You're an incredible mom, a survivor. You keep going, but you always have to remember that the one ball that you do have to bring into the juggling game is you. Yeah. You need to take care of yourself. You need to, and that's having a business is a way of taking care of yourself because it's another purpose that you have. And that's what I'm starting to learn now doing this podcast. And
I'm so happy for you.
And doing this now, it's officially an LLC. Yay! So having the hidden hues of motherhood be this other purpose for me has filled my cup. It has re-energized myself to be a better mom, to be a better wife. It is now a family business because my husband is the digital producer of my podcast. So it's so amazing that you have turned a business into a family, that you just allow your clients to be part of this family. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You are doing an incredible job. You have to keep going.
Likewise.
Everybody, please call Frensis for any events. Any events. She has done every single one of my kids' birthday parties, our baptisms, everything from my husband's graduation from residency. She did some decorations and also the cake for that. You are literally there to help with any special moment.
And thank you for being there, one of the few people to really support me from the very first beginning. As I said, I'll never forget those people.
All it takes is that one mom, that one
to
person
support. That's true.
Support you.
And I will never forget.
We have to pay it forward. Yeah. We have to pay it forward. That's all I ask of the support that I give my moms. I'm giving you the support, and now we have to continue to give that support.
You are amazing at what you're doing. You are amazing at what you do every day, and I would just only encourage you to just keep going, and just keep going. This is not just a podcast for me. This is like a movement.
Yeah,
I have a vision.
Movement.
Like I have a vision for this, and it's really great that you're just creating the channel and creating the opportunity and just the freedom, to just talk about these things, because I think it's needed. And
it is.
And I know no better person that could do this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know no better person that could do this. So thank you. Yeah, and I can't wait to see all the other guests and to hear all the other stories. And it's only the beginning of a great journey for you.
It is.
And I'm very excited.
So much,
and I'm very proud
Frensis.
of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.